So I have to tell you, I love this midweek Yuntif. I mean, you guys want to be here. Just wait till tomorrow. Then you really want to be here, right? So I hope that you had a great time last night at wherever you were spending the Seder, at your house, at someone else's house, you were hosting or you were going, and the weather could not have been more perfect. That we were in my backyard last night. I've, in the last 3 years, never used my backyard as much as I have in the last 3 years. Now, if you've been at Bethel for a while, when I end up speaking on the first day, I try to teach something that you could bring tonight to your second Seder, right? There's kind of a practical aspect of it, since if you're here, you're definitely having a second Seder. If you're not here, you might be having a second Seder. But for you guys, I know that it is something, so I try to make it very, very practical. So so I thought that the piece that I would look at to honor our Rabbi Rudolph, was one of his favorite pieces, as far as I know, that there were a number of years that the Rudolphs and the Harrises would have Seder together. And Echad Miodea was a highlight. And so even last night, we did Bill's game, which we'll do later in here, to see who can go through all 13, or as many as possible, in a single breath. But for you, because I know Bill would do this too, we're not going to start off at like 1 or 2. At the end of my talk, we'll start off at maybe 7 or 8, because that separates the lung capacity compared to the amateurs, right? So, but first, let's give a little history as to what this is and talk about the Seder. So, I'm realizing that there's people at home, hundreds of people at home watching. So I'll read it so that people here we can interact together. So, why the Passover Seder is a perfectly crafted educational experience is the title of this article. It comes from an education blog that focuses on New York City schools called Chalkbeat. And Lizzie Hetzer writes, I participated in a Passover Seder meal this year. She wrote this in 2011. Raised in a Catholic church, I've got a soft spot for ritual and the way that so many of our senses are engaged in religious ceremonies. As I sat through the Seder, I couldn't help but think, isn't this a perfectly crafted educational experience? Right? Now, of course it is. The whole idea of the Seder is to elicit questions. Right? Now, many of us think that the idea of the Haggadah is to get from page 1 to page whatever the end of it is, but actually the goal of it is to elicit conversation in whatever way you can do it. And the crazier you are, the more people are going to say, why are you doing that? And that's actually the point. So there are things that you are kind of designed to have conversation about, but really it is supposed to be a dialogue and not bound by the binding of the Haggadah. Also, because the Seder is a home experience, there's a plethora of creativity. That's why there's more Haggadot published than any other Jewish text, because everyone gets to make it their own, tweak it in their own way, and it's a beautiful experience. So if you are bound by the cover experience. Yeah, thank you. So I figure if I repeated it, it would, that if you are limited by the covers, I invite you to bring some more creativity to it, to engage deeper into the conversation. And there's a bazillion resources out there in order to make this happen. So it is a great educational experience. And what is it that we're supposed to be talking about? right? Coming out of Egypt, and the experience of peoplehood, and the experience of being enslaved. And of course, we can expand that in so many different ways. What limits us, what enslaves us, right? There's so many different conversations that we can have, even leaving politics aside, that there are so many conversations that we can have. So a little history about it. And this comes from the Shik Haggadah. And I want to give credit. Byron Sherwin, some of you may have read some of his books, but Irv Unger, you may not have heard of. But Irv Unger, Rabbi Irv Unger, was the assistant rabbi at the congregation that I grew up at in Burlingame, California. And it was at Rabbi Unger's home. In his dining room, I have an image of it in my head still, that he was the first person that opened up a Chumash, and we were studying something, and he said, hold on, there's someone else that asked the same question that you just asked, and he introduced me to this guy named Rashi. And I was blown away that 1,000 years before me, little 12, 10-year-old, 14-year-old, however old I was, boy in California was asking the same question that a guy in France 1,000 years before me was asking. It was the first time that I felt like I was part of a larger conversation than just me. So I whenever I come across material that Rabbi Unger, I always have great affection for him and for the work that he continues to do. So in the Shik Haggadah, he writes, the author of this popular song is unknown. This is Echad Miyodea. It may have been composed as early as the 14th century, and it's first found in printed form in the famous 1590 Prague Haggadah. The song, composed in the form of a question and answer in Hebrew and Aramaic, is pedagogic in nature and aims at engaging the interest and participation of the children at the Seder. The popular tune to which it is sung is reminiscent of 16th century German folk song. Right? So that when we look at Echad Miyodea and the 13 parts of it, these are sort of like a highlight of what it means to be Jewishly literate. Like if you know any one of these things and kind of unpack as to, who's three? Avot, right. So, right, then each one you can unpack, right? That if you know number 4, who's 4? The mamas, right, exactly, imahot, right? Then you can unpack each one, right? It's sort of a core of being Jewishly literate. Oh, don't worry. We'll turn the page over. We'll get through them. So, but the idea is that if you it's a touchstone for so much deeper Jewish learning. Now, I should say last night as a side note, it was the first time we've kind of jumped to a new generation. So there was a baby at the Seder last night, and so who was not even 1. So they politely, they knew a lot though. They may not have known 1, but they knew a lot. But they politely slept through the entire Seder. So it was great. But the Schechter Haggadah continues in this. The fact that Who Knows One is found in many far-flung places of the diaspora, for example, in Majorca, an island off of Spain, lends further to the relative antiquity of the song. Whatever its antiquity, it is clear that Who Knows One was not originally connected to the Seder. The Jews of Avignon recited it on Sukkot, and the Jews of Cochin, India, recited it at weddings. So to understand the history of the song, we must review the fragmentary versions which were recently found in the Cairo Geniza. In these versions, the song is connected to the Shema Yisrael. Okay? So the article keeps going, but I just summarized it here, right? So how is the Shema connected to counting? Echad, exactly, right? So I don't know if that's a strong connection or a weak connection. It is a connection. And so that the article continues and says, well, the Shema was our first counting, and so therefore it got connected to other parts of counting, like Echad Meodea. The others are saying, again, tying it to the Shema. I think this is an even weaker link here. But of course, in the Haggadah, we have the rabbis of Bnei Brak, right? What happens, since you haven't read it since last night, right? What happens to the story in Bnei Brak? Time for the Shema, exactly. That they run in, and it's time for the Shema, and so it's sort of tied in again. Echad Meodea gets tied into the Shema, which then gets pulled into, or at least we can find it into the Haggadah. But I like this one. I think Rabbi Rudolph would have liked this one too. With regard to why we sing through number 13, a number which is of no particular importance in Judaism, right, until bar mitzvah, right? Like now it's important because of bar mitzvah, but generally 13 wasn't like a biblically important number. Everett Fox suggests that there is a gematria at play here. So if we add up all of the numbers from 1 to 13, we get 91, okay? Which is the gematria of the word amen. Amen is such a weak connection. Amen is connected in the Ashkenazi custom to the Shema. How is it? Well, if you don't have a minyan, then you start off your Shema saying El Melech Ne'eman before beginning the three words, whose first letters, right, as I highlighted here, is Amen. So again, through the gematria of it, that clearly Echad Meodea is clearly, but loosely and weakly tied to the Shema in the Haggadah. So now let's get to Amen. Thank you, Gail. So, right. And Todd is saying Dayenu, right? So if I've been successful this morning, then you have a little bit of something more that you can bring tonight to this part of it. And now let's start with number 7, because doing 1 to 6 would not impress anyone, right? So who knows 1? I know 1, right. Okay, but who knows 7? I know 7. Okay, so who's going to do it? So you have to go from 7 to 1 in one breath. Okay, so
You only have to say who knows. You don't have to repeat.
you don't. Thank you for the rules clarification. So
So you ask who knows, and then say I know whatever number
who
it is.
who knows?
I knows anymore.
Would you please give us an example? Who knows 7?
I know 7 of the days of the week, 6 of the sections of the Mishnah, 5 of the books of the Torah, 4 of the matriarchs, 3 of the patriarchs, 2 of the tablets of the covenant, 1 is our God in heaven and
Yeah.
no circular breathing.
No circular breathing. Okay, who knows 8? I didn't provide it in Hebrew, but if you want to do it from memory, you can certainly do. Who knows 8? Todd. Whoa, there we go. Excellent. Who knows 9? Oh, Michael. Uvaretz. It was excellent, poor breathing, but excellent. Right. I said last night at the Seder, sometimes we applaud for the accomplishment, and sometimes we applaud for the effort. So, right. Who knows 9? Who knows 10? No one. No one wants to have a good time here? Okay, Asa. You could do it in English. It's right here. Excellent. Okay. Who knows 11? But this is not a question of your Hebrew memorization. It's a question of breathing. Let's be focused on the right part of the competition. So, please. Okay, 11. Who knows 11? Okay, Mark. I was going to save it up for 13 for you, but
11 are the stars of Joseph's dream, 10 are the commandments, 9 are the months of childbirth, 8 are the days before circumcision, 7 are the days of the week, 6 are the sections of the Mishnah, 5 are the books of the Torah, 4 are the matriarchs, 3 are the patriarchs, 2 are the tablets of the covenant, 1 is our God in heaven and on earth.
oh, excellent. Your mom is not so sure about your breathing, but but it was excellent. It was good. It was good. Okay, who knows 12? In English, in Hebrew, whatever you want. It's hard. Okay.
12 through 7 through 11 stars of Joseph's dream, 10 are the commandments. 9 are the order to be born, 8 are the days before, 7 days of the week, 6 are the books of Mishnah, 5 are the books of Torah, 4 are the months, 3 are the days, 2 are the books of Moshe brought, and 1 is Hashem.
Oh, yeah. See, look at that. The Portnoy family brings it. So I love it. It's great.
The only one who could do all of Haman's sons in one breath, so I challenge him to.
All right. Okay. Who knows 13? Excellent. I felt your dad's love, right, coming right off of the table here. I love it. But I was going to point it out with respect to your dad, who this cover is named for. You didn't quite achieve it. You did breathe, so better luck tonight. So that I hope that you bring not only a little more knowledge tonight, but also a little more fun to it, because Judaism can be fun. It is fun. It's also interesting. So whether you're from Majorca or Bethesda, Achad mi yodea, who knows one, and Chag Sameach.